Hello and welcome. I am the Restless Geyser.
And I am Johnny B.
I am Clueless Mike.
And I am Duncan Disorderly.
But together we are
Modelling
Wasn't that beautiful?
Gosh.
Let's have a quick look at who we got in the chat tonight then, people. Josh Wood was here. Got it, he can't make it. I love that people come into the comments that, guys, I won't be there. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
With coffee. Ashley, not feeling so well. Look after yourself, Ashley.
Oh, I hope
Your mate Nick from Team Clueless Games still not got over the fact that you didn't film a Christmas video. That's me. Aled is here. Yeah.
We had a Christmas game and it was wonderful.
You just didn't film it?
We just didn't film it.
Yeah, Alid, we are all staying safe. One of my assistants at work is off with the COVID, so, you know, apparently I haven't got it. That's how tests work, right? Totally reliable.
Something like that.
Yeah, at least 90%.
Friends of General Haig, ahoy there. Duncan FX, hello, buddy. Subs is here. First live event of 2022, the only one that mattered, absolutely. Ham and Jam, Saffron69, or Gary, as he's known to us. Bob Edwards, hi, everyone, best wishes. Mini Walmart, mate, how you doing, buddy? Be checking out your zombie stuff because we're going to get into Zombicide later this year. I know you're doing the other one. What's the other zombie game called? The big one?
The big one?
That's Zombicide, isn't it? That's what he's doing. Project Z is what I'm going to do. That was it.
Zombicide's Call Me or Not, isn't it?
Maybe. This is a action board built by Luke of Geek Gaming. Yes, it is, subs. More on that later. Alistair from Warlord Games. Mate, if you wanna come on the show and talk, you'll be welcome. I can send you a link if you give us an email. Someone Abuse UK is here. Drink a shot, every time someone says breakout. That might be a Duncan thing. Tony Halton, seemed distracted, just discovered Forces TV's discovering Blake 7. That is a fact, mate. They've had UFO on there. They've had V on there.
Oh, V. I used to love V.
Last year they had Buck Rogers on. Watched it all, mate. Brilliant.
Buck Rogers.
Wow.
Buck Rogers.
Oh, Colonel Wilmer brings back memories.
Oh. And a robot with a head like a penis.
Wiggy wiggy.
Yeah. Ed Hobby's Desk is here. And War Daddy Minis. How do? Right, nice crew. 23 people. Not bad turnout. Bit hobbying tonight, obviously, while the show is going on. I am painting the, what's it called? Snakebite leather contrast paint onto the MDF buildings I got from Skytrex. And then the true Blue Peter special. Here's one I prepared earlier.
Nice. One of my favorite contrast
paints. It's the same, but different.
Now, for anyone that's thinking of doing this, contrast paint does not like MDF. It really doesn't. I'd have put several coats on this, and it's ended up coming out quite dark because what happens when I'm putting it on, it's just it's not sticking in places. Just getting these patches where you can see the spray underneath.
What undercoat did you use? You can get a special MDF undercoat, which apparently stops all the absorption from the more liquid paints.
Well, it wasn't the absorption; it was the resistance to it. It was like just like liquid resting on the surface.
Weird.
Yeah, it was. But, of course, MDF doesn't like it if you're rubbing the brush backwards and forwards. It's pulling fibers out. You know, so, I thought contrast would be good because it won't, put it on and it stays there and leave
One
it.
big thick coat, done.
Yeah. And if you go back and try and apply paint later, a bit like with washes, you end up with a bit of a tide mark. A bit of dry brushing in it, it'll be grand. But, it hasn't quite... Alan Parker says, hello, my friend Duncan from across the pond. And Sea Dragon. It's just using elite speech. Thanks for teaching me bolt action. I've got my whole club playing now. Is that for Duncan? Did you do it at Salute, or is that for you watch one of our videos? And surely varnish would be cheaper. I'm not sure what is that in relation to what I was talking about. Anyway, that's my hobby, and I'll shut up. John, what are you up to?
I'm basing a couple of big trees because we love big trees.
We do.
Nice looking tree.
And hopefully be doing a bit of your SPQR
You do my
character.
druid.
Yeah,
Oh, do my druid.
he's going to be an ultramarine.
It's going to be what?
It's the only paint John owns.
What are you up to, Mike?
I am painting a Captain General Trajan Valorous, who's a special character for the Custodes. Because in the new codex, he's pretty much an auto take, so I thought I'd better paint it up.
Boo.
And it's not red, it's gold. I mean, no red on there whatsoever, Jason, if you're watching. None at all.
The capes yet, then?
No. And purple, look, purple cape.
Oh, purple. Very nice.
I'm thinking no red at all on the whole model, but I may change my mind.
They've got helmet plumes and stuff, Mike. You're not. This
Yeah,
game is not
We
over
shall
yet.
see.
They might have hair or feathers. What are you up to, Duncan?
We shall see.
I'm doing my level best to be able to focus on the screen, and that's probably about all I can manage at one time. So
That's it.
the idea of putting on the level of lens that I now require just to see a mini, never mind to paint it, and speak to you is probably not going to happen. So I'm going to enjoy the chat tonight.
And speak you shall. Before we go any further, you're going to tell us, sir, who you are and what the hell you're doing here.
Okay, well, I will see if I can attempt to put some light onto that matter, Mr. B.
Thank you.
So my name is Duncan. I live in Southeast London, and about 2 years ago, it feels an awful lot longer as lockdown was starting. I started to re-explore the hobby of my youth with my young boy, who was just approaching 8 at the time. I've got a collection of 1/72 scale Waterloo figures that I've carried with me for years.
Nice.
And in doing that process and enjoying that, I started to have a really silly idea of doing something a bit different. So I'm here today to tell you a little bit more about what that silly idea is and how it's evolved and what's happening now.
Nice. I'm sure Kaiser has a whole bunch of questions lined up for you. Although he seems very content with doing what he's doing.
He's concentrating, that's weird.
Man,
I know, right?
I'm painting, innit? Painting. I love this idea. It's like these guys, I'm sure you got a list of questions. Yeah, that's what I do. You always see me looking at notes because I can't speak to another man for 45 minutes without a script. God.
I know.
or a
That's what we
pipe.
assume.
Oh, hey up there. We've been invaded by a dog.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh, hello.
Cuteness
Hello,
levels
Rosie.
gone up.
Right, so yeah, Duncan, you and I met almost by coincidence. A mutual colleague of mine takes their kids to sporting clubs with the same place your kids go, right? And you kind of got to know him.
Yeah, so a mutual friend of ours is the father of my son's best friend, and they met at nursery 6 or so years ago. And when I first started to think about wanting to do something with my hobby, and mentioned the idea of bolt action to this mutual acquaintance, he referenced this wonderfully crazy guy that he knew who worked at the school with him, who was using the game to work with kids within the school that they both worked at. And that conversation actually was one of the things that really sparked my imagination as to what it is that I might want to do. So I'm thrilled to be here tonight talking about this really for the first time, because it was certainly still the story of hearing about what you've done at the club at school, Mike, that was one of the things that really started the idea off for this project in the first place.
Which is why I got him on the show. I want another person to say how marvelous I am, obviously, from a different perspective.
yeah, naturally.
And the text in the post.
So this was probably about 2 years ago when Neil first got in touch with me and said, "Look, I've got this mate who wants to do this thing." Oh, hey, up there, Luke from Geek Gaming Scenics is here. Hello, Luke.
Oh, wow.
Nice to see you, mate. And that was kind of at the very, very early stages. You were just looking at getting things going.
Yeah, it was November 2020.
Right.
So I just had a divorce. It was the middle of lockdown. I'm one of the gloriously now titled clinically vulnerable. So 2020 was a pretty I'm waiting for the benefits to kick in, to be honest, Johnny. But the 2020 was a pretty tough year, and certainly the back end of it was a very lonely one. I spent most of the sort of second part of lockdown isolating, and even had to say goodbye to my kids for a while when COVID started going through the schools. And it was really in the middle of what was quite a dark place that the idea for this started to come through. So I now had the benefit of not having a wife, which means that the limitations on my spontaneous creativity are less strict than
Why
they perhaps.
Less keen on spontaneous creativity, right?
Well, yes.
Unless it involves taking them to Paris.
I married a woe man as much as a woman, and rightly so. But I also walked away from the separation without a house, but with some money in the bank, and those two things put together, combined with a life-threatening health condition and a global pandemic, were quite an inspiration to do something silly and to do it now. The idea of, if you're going to go big, is also something I've been fairly keen on for most of my life. So the natural decision to make at that point was to commission a rather famous YouTuber to make a 16-foot by 4-foot bolt action wargaming table.
Yeah, because I mean, most people would have bought a starter set, right, and used a cornflakes box, and then slowly improved their scenery. But you went full in.
Did you say 16 foot?
By 4 foot, yeah, mate. It's
Jesus. I didn't realize it was quite that big.
It's one of the first times I think I might have heard that said towards me.
So, God, Duncan, tell them about the board then. All right. So anyone that hasn't seen, let me bring you up, because we talk about Alice board, boring stuff. Background is commissioned Luke's Geek Gaming Scenics, formerly Luke's APS, to make him 4 4x4 boards, which are largely based in the Normandy sector. He's got one board built so far, which I've got a couple of photos I'll try and dig out for you. You can see the trees in the back. I assume that's them, right, Duncan?
Yep. Yeah, I'm sat next to him.
And he's on his phone, so he's gonna show you that up close. So that's the 4-gun battery that the Easy Company in that TV show storm. But you've got another 4 boards that represent different areas of the battlefield, which you're hoping will tessellate in different ways.
Another 3 to come.
Yeah,
awesome.
So there's still a lot to come, and you've taken that board to Salute, and I saw you playing a game, showing some kids how to play bolt action. It was lovely to see. It was like, oh yeah, this is what I do at work on a much less pretty board with miniatures that I don't mind the kids breaking. I was like, so terrible. It's like, you haven't done this with kids, have you? This stuff will get broken, So why don't you give the people a tour of the board, because it is beautiful, right? I mean, you've spent real money on this. These people will like to see it.
Okay, well,
give them a tour.
I'm going to just take you around and maybe turn the light on.
Give him the big screen. Give him the big screen.
Yeah. I can give him the big screen. Here we go. Wobble cam. Look at that.
Bit of Johnny Cam.
That's what a dining room should look like. None of this proper eating at your table or something.
No, there's more game stuff to put on there.
A little bit better. Hang on a second.
That's some more. All right.
They are some nice trees.
They're trees. They're proper trees.
John, you need to up your game.
I know, right? I've just got a little.
Look at that thing in your hand and thinking, this is a decent tree I've got here. Or maybe not.
Yeah, and then you see that. That is epic detail there. Look at that.
So I think I remember Luke put a video up when he was finished with this, and there was like, I don't know, like 1,000 tufts on it or something.
Jesus. Wow. That's a big chunk of the money right there, surely. 20 tufts is expensive. So yeah, this is wow.
Oh, that is awesome.
Oh, here's the bunker. Look at that.
Nice.
Oh, there we go.
Maps and everything. Beautiful.
So
there we go. So hopefully that gives you at least some idea of
massively.
Did you have all the minis commissioned as well, or did you have those separate, or where did they come from?
Good question, mate. I'm just going to try and get back to basics.
Re-establish. Boosh.
So I've got a big thank you to say to somebody who's actually, I think, online right now, a guy called Jack Bellaby, who paints under the name of War Daddy Miniatures, who put these together for me at really short notice in advance of Salute. I wasn't initially planning to go down and be part of Salute this year, but because of COVID, there were a number of cancellations, and I got the call through to say that there was some space. And it worked out quite beautifully. 13th of November was my birthday, so being able to take the first section down and to see so many people at Salute and to share it was really very special.
Nice. Was it difficult to get the bad boy down there?
No, very simple. I mean, just loaded it up on the back of a truck and away we go. I mean, certainly as we move forward, once we've got all 4 sections complete, we're going to be looking at a casing system for it, sort of stacking system, so that we can put them on top of each other. But you're looking at about the size of a pallet of the 4 foot by 4 foot sections.
It doesn't break up at all. It's one solid sheet.
That's it. Yeah.
Each 4 foot by 4 foot section, is a single piece. I mean, again, when I was looking at the planning with the project, it's the choice. It's the big challenge when you're looking at coming across any terrain, right? If you make the decision to go for fixed terrain over scattered terrain, you're obviously by the very nature fixing what you're doing. So you're limiting the playability, you're limiting the options that you've got to then be able to utilize it. So I wanted to do something that was going to give me as much gameplay as I could, and as much reusability as I could, and as much flexibility as I could. So the idea of having something modular was certainly at the forefront of the discussions initially. But initially we were looking at sort of 2 foot by 2 foot sections, but that's pretty small at 28mm scale.
Yeah, it doesn't cover a lot.
So we decided to kind of pick on 3 key locations, 2 of which appear very much in the Band of Brothers show, and then 1 other which is very much referenced to, but doesn't actually appear, and then a linking piece as well. And by having the 4 foot by 4 foot sections, gives me a huge range of options. Each piece works beautifully as a small skirmish table, sort of 750 point, 500 to 750 point table. And certainly the Brecot Manor emplacement game worked beautifully. And we used the scenario from Warlord's D-Day book, with a minor adjustment. So we put a victory point for the German player for each round that they fired for each gun. So the player then has an extra thought process to make, and a challenge as to whether they fire the gun or they release the gun team to defend the position. And it adds to the drive for the American player to have to close the guns down as quickly as they can.
Yeah.
So yeah, and obviously when we add we can then add the bits together to form 8 by 4 sections, and that gives a lot more playability and options around that, as well as then going for the ridiculous size full table.
Yeah, I mean, I think you were talking earlier about like scattered terrain modular boards and 2 foot. So I've got a desert board built on 1 foot squares, following actually one of Luke's recipes with tile grout mixed in to make it hard. Did that, and I love it and hate it at the same time. I really like the natural look of it all, and it's storable. But I hate the fact that I'm playing on a grid.
Yeah.
You know, it's some really strong, positive, strong features. And I'm actually, the next board that we're going to do is going to be a replacement desert board. I'm gonna cut out all of the big the big features, because I used some of you will have seen it. You know, cork for the front of like rock faces, and then sculpt it behind, so it's usable in 15 and 25 mil.
Right.
It's a nice board, but I hate the grid, and I hate, because it's all built at different times, the mixture of tile grout to sand is slightly different each time. And over time, they're quite different shades, each of these tiles. So I think I really need to do it all in one go. I'd be really interested to know if Luke's got any tips on dealing with the fact that my tiles are all different colours. So I followed your recipe, mate, and they all come out slightly different colours.
I mean, one of the things we've had to do is, because we've been working on all 4 sections at the same time, bits and pieces of them, and a lot of the work has been going on to kind of prep in advance then of actually doing the boards. Putting the boards together at the start of the scenics bit is actually probably one of the last bits. But just having enough flock to be able to do all 4 boards from the same batch. You know, one of the benefits about going to a guy who's not only a terrain maker but makes the stuff as well. So you know, it's but it's certainly a consideration when you're building stuff and you want it to be homogeneous. Is how do you keep that continuity going?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's only at flocking now. I'm using a system, and same. I'm basing everything the same way now.
Yeah.
So that I can repeat the recipe.
Yeah, I do similar now.
Yeah, because there's nothing that destroys the kind of continuity within an army than having a different basing system.
Yeah.
Whose static grass was that again? Because we've all got like a dozen bags of different companies that we've picked up in shows, and you know, you go on holiday and you pop in a hobby shop and you go, oh, that's a nice colour bit of flock. That I'll get some of that. I might even make up my own blend. That's even worse. Odds and ends for me to get. And then you come back and say, I need to do another regiment for that army. What the hell flock is that?
You wouldn't think it would make a difference, kind of like the different blends of a couple of bits of extra brown in a bit of green flock, but it really does. It stands out like nobody's business.
Right down to the paint color underneath. I had a mini heart attack because I've been painting, because this is still an acrylic based paint emulsion. These are tester pots from Wilco.
Yeah,
they stopped making. They used to do one. I think it was called Cocoa Java Bean. It was called, which is a dark brown. They don't make it anymore.
I think I might have a pot at work.
I'll take it, because now I have to mix it myself by adding black, so it's not quite the same. But I never let the pot run dry, so I've got something to
something to copy.
It's just like I specifically went for a commercially available paint in bulk.
I'm sure you can find it in the coffee cups at work, Mike.
Yeah, I don't think it's consistency of blend there though. So you've got these boards, and on one level, I know you want to get kids involved in learning a bit of history whilst enjoying the war game aspect of it, and that combination of things. But there's more to it than that, right? So you got a demo board, you took it down to Salute, you showed some people how to play bolt action, which is brilliant. And Warlord chipped in a bit by that point. They give you tokens and some prizes for a raffle and so forth.
Absolutely, and they start to get involved, which has been fabulous. And having the table almost adjacent to the Warlord store at Salute was a wonderful piece. The way it just happened to work out, and it's great to have Alistair along and certainly chatting to Warlord some more about how we might work together with the board a little bit further. There were a couple of things that were part of the drivers behind it. I remember as a kid the fascination of seeing incredible dioramas behind glass at museums, and always being really frustrated by that, and wanting to get in and to play. And to see the reaction of youngsters when there is an amazing piece of terrain and a model that they can actually get engaged in and immersive with is fantastic. So that was very much part of the driver for me. My kids were fascinated when we built this Waterloo model together during the first lockdown. We exhibited it at the end of lockdown to our local community. And kids who've got no real knowledge of history and no interest in wargaming were fascinated and coming up and wanting to have a look and to see what was going on. And in this day and age of where so much of our lives are spent on screen and so much of the information that we receive is on screen, to have something that's visceral, that's tangible in front of you, that you can put your hands on and touch. And you know, Luke's built these trees and taken an axe to them and they survived. So you know, I'm hopeful that we're going to not have to do too much DIY on them over time. There's been a fair amount of compromise between our artistic intent and just practicality. Yeah. Another very strong thing for me is you know, so great you get people and you get to see it. If it helps bring history to life, great. I mean, it's one of the reasons for picking the Band of Brothers theme. There's so much interest about that, and there's so much information about it.
Some of it's even true.
Pardon?
Some of it's even true. Everything.
It might be.
Yeah.
But that in itself, for me, is one of the great things about that, because what is history? It's a collection of people's viewpoints, and it's a collection of stories, many of them with an agenda behind them, if not all of them, but certainly every perspective is different and carries different information behind it. There is no singular truth in the same way there's no singular history. But anything, I think, which helps to draw that out as an argument is a great thing. And if you can do that while playing with some toy soldiers on a great model and learning a little bit about some of the challenges that generation faced during those days, then wow.
Yeah. So what's the next steps for what you want to do? So obviously Luke's making these boards one at a time, presumably. So you've got another one in the works, presumably. Tell us about that.
So yeah, board 2 and 3 are well on the way. We should be having another video coming out relatively soon on the construction of those. So we've got a town board which is loosely based on the approach to Carentan, as I wanted to have just the impact of urban warfare. We've got a sort of linking board which isn't focused on any specific action, but is a bocage scenic board, which links the other boards. And so whenever we're running an 8x4 or bigger, that board will be there and links up to all of the other 3. And then the final piece has really evolved over the course of the year as I've got to know Luke better and got to know some of the options in the hobby better. And so we've moved from sort of Sarissa's MDF kits, which are going to make up the whole of the town section that we put together. And we've now got a pretty awesome 3D print file of the actual manor house at Brecourt Manor, which we're going to be putting on as the final piece.
Wow.
Nice.
How long would one of those boards take to build? Obviously, he's a professional model maker. How long would he spend building, say, the board we've already seen?
So I think he put it down as about 80 hours for this one. Although some of the processes are for other boards, because again, part of one of the things for doing it at the scale that we're doing it at is I wanted to give Luke a platform to challenge himself and to work at scale, which is what most model makers don't have the opportunity to do.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, dream job for him, getting to create something like this. Something, obviously, he might want to create one for himself in his spare time, but as a job, it's unlikely you'll ever get to do something on that kind of scale. I imagine most of his stuff is for single boards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was really inspired by his channel and the work that he's done. Equally, I was massively inspired by Mel Bowes and his work, and was actually watching Mel's videos about his Normandy beach board that was really the first sort of spark of inspiration around what might be done. And there was a bit where I wanted to give Luke a kind of a similar challenge and say, okay, right, here's a relatively blank canvas. What can you do with it?
I'm glad you didn't go
for
beach, because Beach Assault is a really boring game to play.
Absolutely.
What you've gone for is far more flexible to actually play the game.
Yeah, there's only one type of game you can play really on a beach board.
Yeah.
I mean, what I'd love to do would be to have my board in the same room as Mel's at some point. I mean, you mentioned about what's next. One of the things that I'm super excited about for this coming year is at the end of June. I think it's the 25th to the 27th of June. There is a bolt action convention taking place at the Museum of Victory in Carentan, Normandy. And as part of that, they're going to be running an exhibition of truly beautiful, realistic gaming boards, which sounds very French.
And you're like, oh yeah, I'm in there. I've got one of them.
Yeah.
And there are some absolutely amazing pieces of work that are being done by other terrain makers that I've seen in preparation for that. Absolutely jaw-dropping Pointe de Hoc and a number of others. And we're very privileged at the moment, I think, to be the only UK table that's going to be going over there. So to have this board, or even if it's just bits of it, on display in Carentan itself, is going to be something of dreams. It really is.
Sounds great. So, but it's sort of in terms of that though, you have a plan, a dream, a hope that you can develop this into a project where you can take it into schools and things like that, though, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the dream ideally is to be able to use it to help promote the hobby and to raise some funds for charity at the same time. I've been working quite closely with the National Kidney Federation, which is a kidney rather close to, if not my heart, certainly one of my organs. The chance to help raise some money for them while at the same time taking it into schools, with the amount of material that there is around Brecourt Manor. There's an opportunity to do, I think, a really fun presentation around what took place around D-Day. I'm reminded of the sort of World War II briefing sessions, and there was always the sort of sandbox map board that was part of that. So the idea of kind of recreating that in some kind of interactive way as part of a learning experience is something I'm quite keen to try to explore.
Well, down the line, who was obsessed with model making for battle planning? It's not Second World War. It's Haig.
Yeah,
Haig had miniatures of every battle he planned once he had the authority to get it done. Kind of thing. Like, if we're going to lose 500,000 men in this battle, we can spend a few £100 on having a decent 3D model.
You should have seen the size of his gaming room by the end of the war.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So, to that end, you see, this was a rather ham-fisted segue. For anyone that wants to help support this project to see it become a reality, and the plan is not for you to make money off of you, because the plan is to hopefully use this board and demos and so forth to raise money for charities and to educate and involve young people. Do you have like a GoFundMe or something, Duncan? Can people sport you a $5? How about
yeah, I mean, I've got a Just Giving page set up to my association with the National Kidney Federation, which is set up as a direct link into them. So details of that can be found on my Facebook page, and certainly I can pass that on to send the link through to you at some stage. And equally, anybody who's interested in finding out more about what the National Kidney Federation does, they're available on www.kidney.org.uk.
So, yeah.
All the kibblies.
all the kidneys. Yeah, it was good to see. It was good to see you in Salute. As I said, I remember having those very early conversations, which was like, I know you're newly back into the hobby, but I have sat in the pub with fellow gamers a million times with them talking about these unimaginably vast projects that they're going to do. they
Everyone has a dream.
They don't all get made redundant that week and plow that money into it. that's the difference, isn't it? Is you've been able to put this, you've been able to make this into a reality. But it was really nice to see that you'd reached a stage where you really had something that you could showcase, because I think you can go on from there. So you went to Salute. Are there any other UK shows? Is there somewhere people could go and see this board?
Yeah, the next confirmed booking that we've got in place at the moment is for the UK Games Expo at the NEC in Birmingham, awesome. Which is scheduled to take place, I think, over the New Jubilee weekend, bank holiday weekend, the 3rd to the 5th of June, I think. So potentially upwards of 20 to 25,000 people they're hoping to have in attendance, COVID allowing. And it's the first time the show's run for a couple of years, so really excited with that.
That does sound interesting.
Just need to solve the slight conundrum now of finding the figures that are painted well enough to be able to occupy the next two sections of the board.
Yeah, you don't want bad figures on a beautiful board. I often had that issue when you go into, say, I go and play at Warhammer World from time to time, and you really don't want to take some badly painted figures to play on a beautiful sculpted board.
It doesn't stop you, though, does it? So
no. It's not me, then. We're talking about my mate Mark.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like your models are terribly painted, mate. No,
mine are just red.
I have a bit of a rule of thumb about painting scenery, actually, in that it's important to not go too far, because as soon as it looks better than your models, or at least as good, it's drawing the focus away from the game. That doesn't mean that we don't put effort into making nice boards, because we do. Not this scale of effort, because that's a time and money problem. But certainly, it's an interesting conundrum. But the miniatures were painted nice. What was the guy's name again? Give him another shout out. War Daddy Miniatures. That was the guy.
War Daddy Miniatures and the delightful Jack Bellaby, who's delightful in everything except the football team he supports.
He's done that, and he's done that gratis, as it were, to help.
No, and I certainly wouldn't be expecting any artist who does this job as part of their livelihood to give stuff away for free. But certainly he helped out enormously and contributed a whole Band of Brothers box set for the raffle that we ran for charity as well. So
very nice,
enormously.
All right. Well, we are about 40 minutes into the show, so there was a couple of other things I wanted to cover while we're on the topic of bolt action. It is our first show of the new year. He's not leaving; he's not going anywhere. But I hope you guys have enjoyed meeting Duncan. But I'm going to move on to a couple of other things before we run out of time, because we trying to do things a little bit different this year. Not a lot different, just a little bit different. Always trying to make improvements. So one of the things I was never comfortable with is how big a part of our offer the live show had become. It wasn't that I felt there was anything wrong with the live show. It just become 50% of what we did. And I felt we were moving further and further away from regular battle reports, which is what we're all about, or those bigger box set reviews with the history content. And I think that's what a lot of our viewership want. Always nervous if we have live shows. I do it for hours and hours every week. I'm just going to end up saying the same things over and over. I've got my views about World War II, about the Napoleonics. So's John. We'll say them, and then we'll say them again next week.
That's like 3 sentences.
But just so that you guys have an idea of what the structure is, it's moving to fortnightly, essentially. The Tuesday live show will still have a guest. In most cases, I'm trying to get one person who's either from the industry or somebody like Duncan, somebody who you will not necessarily have been able to talk to on the YouTube platform or hear from. And then the other one will be like another YouTuber. So in 2 weeks' time, we got Big Nick Danskell come back. We're going to talk about small 40k. We're going to talk about kill team, combat patrol size, that skirmishes. I'm really into the smaller game for the time period. But also once a month on a Saturday, I think it's the first Saturday of the month. The first Saturday of the month, we're going to have an international show. The only difference is it sounds better than it is. The only difference is it provides space for us to have people from overseas involved in the show because we can move the time slot. So the fortnightly on Tuesday will stay at the same time, but on Saturday there might be one that's 8 o'clock in the morning because that suits the Australians, and we're going to have an Australian guest on, for example. And
makes sense.
Quarterly within that package, we're going to do some of the what I was kind of toying with the idea of fireside chats going on with the Roosevelt thing, but I think it's probably war stories with Kaiser is what it really is, right? So we're going to have those like we did with when we had oh gosh, I've forgotten his name now. Drakinifel, when we did the Jutland thing, and then when we had
you had Seventh
the
Son
Carthaginian thing on with Seventh Son, and we talked a little bit about it with Friends of General Haig. So Friends of General Haig is working on a Edge Hill, you know, battle report, if you will, something of a presentation. Wooly Mike, who you've seen from time to time on the channel, is a big American Civil War enthusiast. He's studied history in the States. He's really into that. So he's going to do some of that, and I'm hoping that we can start right at the beginning with the Civil War. And over the next 20 years, we'll take you through the whole thing. And there was someone else who I've temporarily forgotten, but quarterly we'll do. There's a lot more work involved in those, so you'll have a bit and we started putting the preview tiles up on the Facebook page, so you know what's coming this month, hopefully. So that's where we are with that. Hopefully people are interested in those things. I have not played Baron's War yet. No, 4K subs. That is something that just happened this weekend. So thank you for everyone that likes comments.
Oh yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Black and white shot videos don't have to paint anything. That's not a terrible idea, especially when. If you saw our Christmas videos and our hobby resolutions, a number of things in the pipeline. But the first one is very nearly ready. So I'm going to try and roll a VT here, and hopefully it's going to work.
What the hell was being murdered in the bushes?
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
When did you start recording in Crystal Palace Park?
At night. The actual piece of music is called something like Scary Jungle.
Well, yeah, that got me, mate.
Scary Jungle, yeah, ambient Scary Jungle. That's what it's called. So we have played a game of Firefight. This is a single model. You might be interested in this, Duncan, as you think about other games you want to do. It's bolt action, but with single model activation. Really, really interesting game because everything's a small team and it's hit on sevens. It isn't great. Gary at Saffron 69, not Burma. That was Philippines because they were Marines and Japanese, US Marines and Japanese.
Is there a Vietnam version of it, Mike? That would be quite fun too.
They do a Korea. But this is played on a 2-foot by 2-foot board. It's a very European looking jungle. We had to use the scenery that we've got. Yeah. You know, you can get like the plastic plants will take you so far, but we needed the trees to get slightly bigger stuff. But on a 2 by 2 foot board, I think it was about 2.5 feet actually, because of the size of the road tiles that we have. It just meant that was kind of the minimum size we could mark out without being a bit weird. And we had 6-7 guys each. It was an interesting and very swingy game. What I wasn't ready for is how dangerous hand grenades are. Because they're not in ball action. And suddenly everyone has got a 1-inch HE weapon at 6 inches. And at 6 inches, that's point blank +1 to hit. I'm going to hit you and then I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
When you've been doing a lot of shooting on sevens up to that point.
It is one of the frustrations about action, isn't it? Actually, is the lack of any kind of recognition of the roller grenades.
Yeah, I mean, Yes, on one level, but one of the things I really like about bolt action is it cans a lot of things. There's a lot of things you could do that it doesn't do, because if you play Warhammer 40k, you see what happens at the other end of that. There is definitely a balance to be struck, and one of the things about Warlord's game system, so those that Rick Priestley has had an influence over, is they tend to operate with abstraction for simplicity and speed of gameplay.
Yeah.
There's nuance in there, and that's often delivered through like army special rules. So the Japanese are particularly good at close combat in bolt action, for example, which is a really useful area because close combat is very lethal in bolt action. Being a bit better than everybody else at the thing that's actually going to kill everyone is quite good. But the basic rules are kept really simple, and I like that a lot. And if you add grenades, it just adds a level of nuance. I think that it doesn't strictly need. I don't know. What do you think, John? What did you think? You played Firefight with me. What did you think?
What I like most about it is that we had 7 miniatures, and you can open up all sorts of options with that. Like, you don't have to have an army. You don't have to do an army. You can just have a little very characterful squad.
Really
like I've got that
sort of small armies.
Exactly. I've got that Royal Navy section that I really am thinking about getting painted up now, so we can do a little, I don't know, harbour
ratings.
Yeah, mate. Come on. Regards to gameplay, I mean, it wasn't as lethal as we thought it was initially, because, as you say, and then everybody started dying. Yeah, you know, everyone's an individual, so they're hard to hit. Blah blah blah. We had some shocking dice rolls, which you'll see. But yeah, it opens up a lot of scope. Yeah, standard, man.
And
that's really good.
The big thing is, as a channel, right? Is without. There's so many things we want to do, and we've even told the viewers we're going to do. We want to do North Africa. We want to do Burma. We want to do the Pacific Islands. We want to do Norway. It's like,
exactly.
Yeah, but each of these is a year's worth of painting and modeling to get a board ready. And you get said, no. This is a 2x2 foot board, and 10 models would be a huge force.
Yeah.
And
that changes everything.
Yeah. Absolutely. As a barber, I like this podcast. It is every stage of beard growth. And that interestingly, I think maybe our very first comment ever on Twitch. About 2 podcasts ago, I started putting it onto Twitch in the belief somebody somewhere may pick it up. So welcome, Mr. Twitch follower. Quite special.
That's epic.
So yeah, that's as I said, opens up so many things for us, like commando raids, long range desert group. Often you get at long range desert group or SAS models to try and play Flames of War with them. Like, no, this is not how they work. No.
Yeah.
Here we got 10 guys trying to blow up a water tower. That's what they do. That is exactly what they do. Hey, it's Kev from the Hobby Corner. Good evening there, bud. A couple of other things then. So on that notice, I one of the companies we don't order from very often for the online store, is Javis. They do things like the Vitrix and so forth that we get. And on that list, you know, sometimes you make a bit of an impulse purchase. You see something, ooh. So I am really interested. Now we're playing these smaller scale games, and I do think that there's a lot in it. And I'll look at it more. He's having 54 mil instead of 28 or 1/35 miniatures. And the first one was my only love. So I saw this, and I was like, "Ooh, this looks interesting, right?" First World War German infantry, right? Okay. Then I got the miniatures. Oh man!
Right. What?
Something else. Let me see if I can get it on the big screen.
You're going to need to focus in here.
Look at them beauties.
Oh, beautiful.
On them.
Oh my lord.
Beautiful.
They should come as green.
Gorgeous. Oh,
look at the manly poses.
Oh dear,
mate, what's the ballet? What is going on with the guy throwing a
what
grenade?
is the guy on the front doing?
That's all the statue poses you're ever going to need, right?
So
Wow.
I got enough of them to play.
Anyone want some? That could be our next giveaway.
So
Oh wow.
this one I didn't even take the selfie. I knew I needed to know here.
Coming to an eBay store near you soon.
Yeah.
Now, to
Wow.
be fair, these are horrid. Now, to be fair, we're really not used to looking at that scale of miniature, and they're not painted, and they're very shiny, and maybe they're not. Oh, I'm on big. Maybe they're not actually going to be as bad as that when I put some paint on them. But I mean, they look
Maybe
pretty nasty.
they're going to be worse.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things, and the other thing was, dun dun dun. A lot of you will have seen this, the Renedra mod brick house, because
Oh yeah.
with the advent of Firefight, we can move to the Desert War relatively quickly. Relatively quickly. Not next week. Not next week. And we're not stopping playing regular bolt action either. It's just, yeah.
How different were the rules? Just out of interest.
It's the same core rules.
Yeah.
As somebody who likes
Like
to write their
everything's
own
the same.
modifications.
There's just a few minor adjustments, isn't there? But most of it's exactly the same.
List building was a teeny bit different.
Yeah.
It still recognised the parent list, but it's like you have to take a command team and you have to take at least one squad, but your minimum squad size is down to 3 rather than 5. And you can only have 1 heavy weapon. Now, it's obviously in... some armies are going to be a lot better than others in that, because in that game, you're never going to kill anybody with a rifle, but you're going to murder them with a machine gun.
Does it use all the same points from standard bolt action? Yeah. So just exactly. So I took a light mortar, which turned out to be a terrible weapon in this but I'm trying to shoehorn the light mortar back into Skirmish World War II, because everybody had them, and they are actually individual weapons portioned out at platoon level. They've got them. Unlike actual 80mm mortars or 3-inch mortars, they're in batteries at battalion level. You don't have one behind that shed. That's not how they work. No. You have lots of them. So that's that. And then other things on the channel. Johnny B's Flames of War British Army, almost done. It's got most of the...
It's not really mine, though, is it?
It's the one you're going to play with. I'm going to crash
I'll be using it.
You'll be using it, yeah. Almost done. We've seen that soon. And in terms of videos we've got recorded, I played another game of Mortal Gods with James. That won't be too long. We played the Firefight with John. We have unboxed Strontium Dog and Blood Red Sky. So those are the things you can expect to see the coming weeks. The Antares videos that are just released over the weekend, I made those with Jimotech, and Jimotech and I just do not seem to have collaborating timetables anymore. So mission number 5 might not happen for ages. And I just thought so that's why they kind of got dumped. World of Tanks, the miniatures game, 100%. That's such an easy game for us to play, because it's a pick up and play game. What generally happens with that is when we play a game of Bolt Action or Flames of War, we'll not pack up the board. We'll play a game of tanks on it afterwards. Just change the scenery a little bit so it suits that game better. Yeah, definitely. That's probably most of it. Yeah. What about you, John? Any news? Anything you've been up to? Anything you're willing to share?
I've really lost my hobby mojo. I really have. But I'm starting to get back into it. So hopefully we'll see that SPQR game whatever it will be soon-ish. Yeah, that's it really. I've got a few other bits. I need to get modelling the Perry Miniatures 8th Army and the Africa Corps.
Yes. But we'll play Firefight soon. You need like half a dozen models. We'll talk about
I know.
Play again.
I know. We will do that. So yeah, lots of little bits and bobs, but nothing meaty. You know what I mean?
Mike?
Similar to John, actually. I lost a bit of my hobby mojo over Christmas. Usually in the holidays, I sit and paint, and I did 0 over Christmas. Just struggled to find the time. So to try and kickstart myself, I've signed up for a tournament at the shop in Milton Keynes, just up the road from us. So hence I'm painting a dude. So that's at the middle-ish of next month. So hopefully going to kickstart my painting to get to go into that.
Here's hoping.
Nice. And what about you, Duncan? You got Luke doing all this beautiful stuff, but you mentioned
what you doing
with the boy. What hobby are you doing?
I'm attempting to try to get my painting level a little bit better than it currently is, but it's not going particularly well. But there's another delightful artist by the name of Barry Evans who is very kindly doing a couple of vehicles for the board for me. And I've got the opportunity of spending a day at his studio with him. So I'm hoping that will turn my painting from embarrassing into almost displayable. But we'll see.
I think
it's going to learn you what.
All the things. It's just practice, right? Just do it and do it and do it and do it.
And it's always worth remembering that any painted is better than not painted. I used to. Many years ago when I first started, I used to hate painting and used to always play with no paint on the models. Whereas now, whenever I get anything new, I undercoat it, I get a base coat on it. I generally throw something on the base just so it's usable. And at that stage, you can kind of play with it if you want to, but never want bare plastic on the table anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
I've got one or two minis waiting for me to start. So. I think I'm just down to the 5 starter armies and accessories that are waiting. So I've got a bit to go.
Radio. 5 starter armies.
That's lots.
That is lots and lots of starter armies. So you're going to send me through the stuff to the kidney charity. The name
I'll send you that, and I'll put the Just Giving link through on that as well. And if anybody wants to contribute towards that, that will go straight to the National Kidney Federation. Yeah. And equally, if anyone wants to have a chat and would like to see the board at their event, or has a club or a school or even a shop, and wants to see the board there with them and help to spread the news about the hobby, then it'd be lovely to speak more.
And the next confirmed booking is the NEC games.
And the next confirmed one, it's the beginning of June at the NEC. And if you're around, it'd be great to have a game over it.
Magic. And I'm going to be in touch about the possibility of us coming and playing your demo game.
Well, that would be fantastic. And
it's about getting my film equipment to your house, or some mutually suitable place.
It might also involve knocking down a couple of walls to get the full 16 by 4 foot set up as well. But we'll see how we go.
I don't think it's going to fit in the Kaiser's bedroom. Right? So
it's definitely definitely going to fit up here. They're going to fit up here. All right. I'll just have a quick catch up with the chat. Kaiser's perfect game is a 1v1 played with action men. Absolutely, guys, mate. ICM do great World War. Is that in 135th? I have to have a look at that. ICM. War Daddy Miniatures says I mispainted one. Never seen anything that bad. Yeah. And bear in mind, I don't know how old these are, but I painted up some Tamiya 135th Germans, which are sculpts from the early 70s, and they were actually all right. They weren't amazing, but they were all right. They were better than cheap plastic miniatures anyway. And then I think we're just about caught up on that. So that's largely where we are. I think that probably concludes the show, unless anyone has got anything to add. I'll be round with a sledgehammer. Oh, it's Neil. That's the mutual guy. That's my colleague at work who's appearing online. You give his real name away. There we go. That's Neil. He's a lovely man.
He is indeed.
All right. Well, that's it from us, guys. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, watch the videos. Thank you.
Do things.
Lovely to meet you guys. Thanks ever so much for your time, and thanks for the invite, Kaiser.
Bye.